I'll be doing my speech over domestic violence. So 1.5 million, that's the number of women who are raped and abused by their intimate partner every year according to the NOAA Project. Domestic violence is a very dangerous thing and it shouldn't be taken lightly. A lot of deaths occur because of domestic violence and it gets unnoticed very easily. It's happening right here in our own city as well, Abilene. Believe it or not, a lot of people are victims of domestic violence and you would never know. So being able to be aware and know the signs is very crucial and very important because you never know if you could save a life one day. In order to show you how much of a relevant problem domestic violence is, I want to discuss my first point. My first point is domestic violence is not something that sprang up one day out of nowhere. It has been around for many centuries, been around for a very long time. According to Kathy Young, who wrote an article for the Independent Women's Forum, there's no denying that the treatment of domestic violence by police and the courts for much of our history, it was very flawed. Many cases, district attorneys did not want to prosecute domestic violence cases because it was felt that it was putting the family in jeopardy if you took the breadwinner away and put them in jail. So a lot of times they just ignored this and just didn't prosecute anybody at all. But if you look forward into the 1970s, that's when the first shelters started opening up for domestic violence victims, and the crisis hotline was made. Around the same time, there was a shift toward a more law enforcement oriented approach to domestic violence. And in 1992, the American Medical Association reported that as many as 1 in 3 women will be assaulted by a domestic partner in her lifetime. That's 4 million in any given year. And that was 22 years ago. So I'm sure the numbers have drastically changed since then. So there are several barriers that prevent domestic violence from being 100% diminished as well. The first is attitudinal. One of them is just there's already shelters out there. There's already shelters here in Abilene, and so people just get in their mind that people are doing stuff about it, so we shouldn't have to do anything. There are also a lot of victims that don't report domestic violence. According to Alexis Moore, who is an abuse examiner, the top 3 reasons for victims not reporting domestic violence is fear, demoralization, and uncertainty of arrest of their abuser. So these women have no idea whether when they go and report this, if anyone's going to say anything or if the guy's going to end up in jail, they don't know. So a lot of times that fear of that just keeps them from doing it. Looking at structural, every state gets to decide what is considered domestic violence. So every state gets to decide whether which cases go further on and which cases don't. So it can be very conditional and very uncertain, and it can make a big difference. Children who grow up in a domestic violence home are more likely to do so themselves. So children who grow up witnessing domestic violence from their parents or from their fathers, whatever it might be, more than likely grow up, according to studies and everything like that, to be one themselves, to be an abuser themselves. So you just never know who's going to end up being a domestic violence, abuser or anything like that. So it's very uncertain. Domestic violence is also very dangerous. It leads to many injuries, many deaths, and suicides as well. So physical effects for this are just bruises, broken bones, black eyes, and red or purple marks. Victims can also suffer from psychological scars as far as severe depression, insomnia, loss of appetite, and anxiety. So moving on from that, let's talk about the direct costs. So with the direct costs, usually those are consumption related and include the cost of like healthcare services, social and welfare services, counseling, transportation, all of that different stuff, housing. So the CDC estimated that the annual cost for healthcare services used to treat victims of domestic violence in the United States is at least $4.1 billion. And that was based on 1995 statistics. So that's not even an up-to-date statistic, and that's a huge number. Domestic violence can cause victims to miss work or lose their jobs as well. Many of these victims have to miss work due to injuries or mental health problems, or even fear that their abuser is going to find them at work, and so they want to stay hidden. So most of the time they end up losing their job, missing a lot of days of work, things like that. The CDC estimated that abused women in the United States miss nearly 8 million days of paid work in a single year, the equivalent of losing more than 32,000 full-time jobs from the U.S. economy. Friends and family might also be affected by this, by having to miss work if you are in the hospital or you need help or need picked up, anything like that. That could cause them to miss work as well. So it affects a lot of people on a lot of things. So clearly domestic violence is a significant issue that could not only take a toll on someone's physical state, but could affect their jobs and their family's jobs. However, with implementation of providing safe places for victims that could reach out to, the problem itself could be helped. So I put forward a state-funded education and job training assistance center that could be implemented here in Abilene and in the rest of the state, as far in the U.S. as well. Basically, with this, the governor of Texas, Rick Perry, and the city of Abilene will work together to create an education and job training assistance center. So, Rick Perry would get funding for a facility in Abilene and possibly other places in Texas, and maintain and coordinate the education and job training assistance for the victims. The city of Abilene would spread awareness of the education and job assistance and maintain the employment and maintenance of the buildings. As far as what it would solve, an education and job training facility would solve victims being afraid to reach out for help. The Allstate Foundation does something very similar to this and has had many success stories from their program. Since 2005, the Allstate Foundation has donated over $30 million to help break the cycle of violence. As far as the workability aspect, an education and job training facility would be easily implemented. The center could be partnered with Allstate, which has had success over the last 9 years, and could be partnered with the NOAA project that's local here in Abilene. A facility to provide this education will provide necessary building blocks for these victims as well to get back up on their feet. It would have also additional advantages as well. Having an opportunity to be educated will provide victims with hope. So these victims who go out and they're afraid to, strain from what they're used to because they've been taught down to and told they can't do it, this center will provide them an opportunity to take the chance to gain an education, gain the experience, and be able to get out there and be independent from the situation that they were put in. Partnering with the NOAA project also, the facility could be a place for education and training, but then you could use the NOAA project as a partner to have homes for these women who have been abused and all this different stuff. So they would actually correlate and go together and combine. So it's not just something trying to compete with another program for domestic violence, but they're actually working together. So given all this information about domestic violence and a unique way we can fight against it, I hope that this has shed a new light on the subject. So we've talked about what domestic violence is, what it does, how it affects these women, and we've also talked about a plan that could be implemented to further the assistance of these women. So what you can do is you can contact the governor, Rick Perry. You can always email them their website, on their government website. You can always email them with your concerns or questions or anything like that. Let them know. Reach out to people. Let them know. The NOAA project, that's local here in Abilene. You can go on their website. You can become a member. You can donate. You can volunteer. You can even become employed. The more educated that you are on the subject, the better off you are being able to make a difference and help. You can also go onto the Allstate Foundation website as well, which does something very similar to what I wanted to put in place here for Abilene. You can learn from their mistakes, learn from their experiences, see how they've succeeded, and use that to make a plan here in Abilene as well. So, with all this being said, I just want you to take away that one man who invented the WordPress and made a huge impression on these people, Johann Gutenberg. He took something that was an idea, he innovated it, changed it a little bit, and dramatically changed the way we did things for the longest time. So it just shows that one man, one woman, whoever can make the biggest difference of all. If you just put your mind to it, know what you're talking about, and implement a plan. Thank you.